flag on it. Haha. Did you look at this thing that Nancy sent that is an ODT file that she sent with her water course report?
That's
Because
a 2016 report.
Is that what it was? I can't open it. It just says Kachina PD version 2
I think that's
at her level.
I think that's the diagnostic that you had done with the wetlands. Is that what you're talking about?
No, that report is a PDF and it's fine. I can open it, no problem.
Oh, okay. Then I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
In the same email that she sent us, which is dated, it looks like today at 11 a.m.
It was her letter.
Yeah.
There was another one that came after.
Oh, I got both of them. Okay.
Oh, I think you got it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've read the number 3, so I'm good.
Perfect. You're good.
I know what an ODT is. It comes from Open Libre Office, and it is not openable on my iPad, although it is on my computer.
Oh.
But it's not quite as standard a format as the doc file is.
All right. Well, we do have a quorum.
Signing on. Yep, we're good.
So it is 6:30. So I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Woodstock Planning Board for May 19th, 2022, held via Zoom. And are there any updates to the agenda, Melissa?
There are. The one you received an email from Tracy Kellogg. I sent it to you guys all. It's just regarding the colony. That's it. This one.
Okay. All right. Now we have the minutes from April 21st. If everybody's okay with them, I say we adopt them as is.
So moved.
All in favor?
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Okay, under communications and announcements. Cursor over there.
Quite a lot.
We have 3 emails with attachments from Finlay regarding the Woodstock Library. We have an email from Wangaro, get my glasses on here, regarding the colony. We have an email from C. Finlay regarding the Woodstock Library. An email from C. Keith regarding the colony. An email from Heidi Emmerich regarding the Ulster County trainings that are available. We have an email from Ashley and Bill McKenna regarding the wellhead protection law. We have an email from New York State Parks, Recreation and Historic Preservation regarding the Woodstock Artists Association. We have the Woodstock Environmental Commission agenda for a meeting to be held on the 18th, was held. We have an email from M&H D. Swan Aarons, which is in regard to the fact they planted all the pine trees that they said they were going to do, and they sent pictures showing them. We have emails from the New York State HPO regarding submissions received and accepted for FAM acres. We have an email from Aileen regarding the colony, emails from Miguel regarding the colony, email from Keith regarding the colony, and email from Thompson Esquire regarding the casino, and 2 emails with attachments from Nancy Schoeffer regarding the casino, and an email from Nagli Colony regarding the colony. So tonight we have 2 sketch plan reviews. And the first one is the Bearsville Center LLC special use permit number 2203638. And this is a sketch plan review for a special use permit application to hold outdoor events with live entertainment on specified dates located in the NC zoning district at 277 and 297 Tinker Street in Woodstock. And the representative is Ian Troxel, if you were present. Okay, would you
No, but
please?
Lizzie Van is. I'm here.
Lizzie,
Okay.
Lizzie also. Lizzie's the main doer.
All
Hi, Lizzie.
right.
Hi, Ian.
Hello.
Hi, hi. Okay, would you please tell the planning board what it is you are proposing to do?
Well, we would like to hold events on the holiday weekends of Memorial Day, which is in 10 days time, July the 4th, a date in August, which is a celebration of the Woodstock 69 event, Labor Day weekend and Memorial Day weekend. This is different to what we've done during the period of the pandemic, because at that point there was no need to apply for a permit, and we were some weekends holding things outside, but we've decided to restrict it to those 5 weekends. Mostly it's just a one day, it's actually one afternoon rather than a multiple day use. And we're very aware of our neighbors' concerns and of all the work that is being done about noise and music in Woodstock. So what we have done, we have taken a different route to that the colony is taking. We have instead installed a small temporary stage, and we are linking it electronically to decibel meters. So we're taking the 4 points of the compass, north, south, east, and west of our property on the boundaries, installing an electronic decibel meter, which is powered by batteries. And we are linking that to the cloud. And the cloud is then allowing everybody, from the musicians on the stage and our sound technical people that can control volume, through to yourselves and our neighbors and the sheriff, anybody else that would like to see it. And we're aiming to control the sound in that way and keep it to as low a level as we possibly can. We are also in the process of installing speakers in our backyard. So our backyard, which some of you may have visited, well, I know some of you have visited, we have extended it now into some of the car lot, and we are putting in pods for private seating. So COVID has shown us that people really like to be with their family and friends outside. So we're putting 12 of these seated areas with really nice seating in it. And each of those areas is getting 2 speakers, which gives them personal sound that can be a much lower volume. So we're trying both of those approaches.
Okay. Members of the planning board, do you have questions for Liz?
Well, I guess I do, Peter. I thought that event permits were a different thing from special use permits. Am I wrong about that?
Well, yeah, you can get an event permit, which you apply to the dispatcher at the police office for an event. It's usually for 300 people or more. That's called an event permit. So I don't know, Judy, because this is asking for a special use permit. So it's a special use permit for these events, is the way I.
We were advised by the town that we would need a special use permit. Maybe we were misadvised.
The referral did come, the referral came from the building department. She's right.
Okay. Do they need both?
What was that, Judy?
Do they need both? Or would one from us take care of all needs?
I would assume, since the building department gave it to us, that
The reason I'm confused, Peter, is that if I read the sound law, that pretty much controls unless there is an event permit. So I don't see how we could do a special use permit that went beyond the sound laws in the code. And if they're within the sound laws in the code, there's still that problem that's outside music, which is technically not permitted unless you have an event permit, if I understand it right.
any other members have questions? I'm trying to think over Judy's question here.
This is Stuart. I have a question. Can I ask it?
Sure, go ahead, Stuart.
So I'd like to ask the applicant this, the setup that she described about the electronic decibel meter linked through the cloud to the musicians who were there and so on. Does that self-limit the sound levels that are being produced at the site, or does it require some human to actually monitor it and adjust the levels?
It doesn't, there is no limiting option for us at the moment. I don't know if there is such a thing, but I
You
do
understand what I'm
know.
asking? I understand there may be some technology out there where if you preset the decibel levels, it can put like a governor on the amplification to regulate the amount that's being put out. Is that what you're proposing, or is it something
That's
different?
not what we're proposing this time. And if that thing exists, then we will try and find it. What we're going to do is rely upon our sound technician to observe it all the time. And we're also going to rely upon the musicians themselves, which I know may be a little optimistic, but they will have screens in front of them that go from green to red if they go over the decibel level that we set for them. So they will know, they'll be aware of it if they start cranking it up. And also our sound tech will be aware of it, and he can control it from his movable iPad that he walks around with.
And do you have a sense of what the decibel level is that you would tell them that you don't want to exceed?
We are going to do a small experiment when this kit arrives on Monday or Tuesday of next week and try it out. I would like to see if we have a boundary on Marco Grove, another one on Overlook, another one just on the other side of the stream, and then one on 212. There's nobody on 212. The other side of the stream, we know the people, so they're going to let us put the meter in their yard. And then Marco Grove and Overlook. On each of those locations, we believe that we can produce sound on a stage that falls away to between 70 and 80 decibels. So we're going to try for that, make sure that that works. And if it doesn't work, we'll come up with another solution. We do not want to be a nuisance to our neighbors, but we also do need to be commercially viable. So we do need to be able to hold events. We are restricting them to just 5.
I understand that. I understand that. I may have some other questions, but those are the ones I wanted to raise immediately. So I'm going to back up and let other people ask questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, any members of the board have questions for Liz?
I have a point of information to provide. I looked on the code. The event permits are for vending. They don't mention sound. So this is within the normal general performance standards kind of question. So I guess a special use permit is right.
Thank you,
Okay,
Judy. Thank you, Judy.
other members of the board have questions? Yep, go ahead, James.
Hi, Lizzie.
Hi.
What about these pods? Where are they going to be located? And are they actually sort of a soundproof thing, or can you describe them a little better?
No, they're not soundproof. They are platforms made of bluestone. They're part of the landscaping. They measure 12 feet by 18 feet. They are, you remember our park, James, so we've just expanded it. You're very welcome, all of you, to come and do a drive-by or a walk-by.
Would you like the map up with the aerial photograph?
Yeah, let's. I don't have it in front of me, so.
And so there are 12 of these pods that are gathered around this small stage. And there are 2 streamside that will not be, they won't have speakers because obviously we don't want to be closer to our neighbors. The 2 that are streamside are just going to have swings on them. But the 12 that are gathered around the small temporary stage are the 6 along the fence and then 6 a little closer forward. It's like it's like a semicircle, 2 semicircles. And the stage itself is, if any of you are familiar with it, there is a Albert's grave, which is that small rectangle, the small there, and it's just to the north, just to the north of the middle there, about 30 feet from the grave itself.
So where I'm moving the marker around.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Lizzie, I have a question. Were the pods on the original site plan that we approved about a year ago?
They were there, but subsequently we've I don't think they were plotted out one by one. I think we were showing that we were going to put pods. We were also going to put a chapel there, which we haven't done.
Yes.
This is totally in response to COVID, where people say
Yep.
they want to sit outside, but not near other people. So we're trying to make it possible for them to sit in small seating groups together.
I do remember that this was brought up in conversation. I just couldn't remember if they were placed on the plan. Thank you.
So you would have some kind of speaker on each of those pods that was local sound rather than
Yes.
coming from the stage.
Yes. And of course, we're going to restrict all the music to acoustic music. So there will be no drums and no electronic bass. I think with acoustic music, you do amplify the singer's voice. And I think you may amplify the acoustic guitars, but that's the sound that we can control.
Okay, any other members of the board have questions for Liz? I know Stuart said he had a follow-up question.
Well, I do. It's actually more a discussion amongst the board and with the applicant as well, because we have to deal with the zoning code as it's handed to us and make sure that all plans are in compliance with the zoning code. And there's two provisions that are concerning here. And first of all, I appreciate that the applicant is giving voice to the idea of no drums and no, pounding bass and so on. I also understand the need of solo singers to have some amplification so that the voice can be heard in the immediate surroundings. So I'm not insensitive to that. The problem is that there are two code provisions that are, as I read them, mandatory upon us, and we have to grapple with them. And one is that it, let me get it right here. There are sound limits set up in the code for various districts, zoning districts in the town, and for the NC Neighborhood Commercial District, where the Bearsville Center is located. The code says that any noise from a property in that location cannot exceed 64 decibels from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. or after 9 p.m. it's 60 decibels. So, my understanding is that is pretty much normal conversation level. And if you're looking for a commercially viable music arrangement, you're going to have to exceed those levels. But as a planning board, I don't know how we can grant permission for something that exceeds the standards prescribed to us by the code. You might almost need a variance on it. I don't know, but I don't know how we can exceed that. The other piece that is concerning to me is that there's a provision. Let me find it. In the supplementary regulations, make sure I get this right. 260-62, which are general standards for a special use permit, which is what you're seeking, which says that all activities employing amplified sound shall take place fully within the structure or structures. So how do we have authority to allow outdoor amplified sound? Doesn't the code say quite clearly that it has to be inside? And again, this is not my personal preference. I'm just looking out for the board, because we have to operate within the zoning code. And if the code needs to be revised or changed or something like that, that's beyond our role. We're here to administer the code, not to question it. So again, meaning no disrespect to the applicant, but I have concerns about our role under the code, and something that we need to really discuss and get a handle on before we can really decide this application. But we're at the preliminary stage, so that's why I raise it at this time.
Stuart, do you think it would require a variance?
I don't know. My reading of the code is I don't know how we can authorize give permission for any amplified sound outside of a structure. How can we do it on a special use permit application if the code says in black and white that all activities employing amplified sound shall take place fully within the structure or structures? Again, I don't want to be I'm not a curmudgeon here. I like music. I like listening to music. I like playing music and all that. But, and my role here on the planning board is to make sure we operate within the code. So I know in other instances where If we deny something because it's against the code, sometimes applicants will go to the ZBA to seek a variance, for setbacks and so on. Now, I don't know why that wouldn't apply here, but I don't really have an opinion on that, Peter. So I'm just trying to avoid violating what the code puts on us. That's it.
Judy has her hand up.
Yeah, I've got exactly the same concern. I mean, on the one hand, there is this decibel level thing, and I'm not as concerned as Stuart about that because the music is not going to be too loud for somebody in a conversation around a table to hear themselves. So by the time you get 10 feet outside the boundary of the property, it's probably not an issue. But what you pointed out, Stuart, is pretty clear. I mean, it's kind of absolute. I think it's one of those things where somebody wasn't thinking about who Woodstock is when they wrote the code. But it's there, and we can't undo it unilaterally.
Well, it's the law. We don't write the law. We don't amend the law. So, it's been
I have to agree with
pointed
you.
out to us many times that we have limited authority. And we administer the code. It's handed to us. And we have to make sure that the plans abide by the code. That's what we do. And we have to apply the standards that are in the code. So, if people don't like the standards, then they have to petition the town board to change them. Or it seems to me they have to go to the ZBAs if a variance is possible. And I don't have expertise on that to know. So
Here.
I don't know. I appreciate all that the applicant and her team are doing out there, and I hope they can figure this out. But
Can I just
we can
say
help here.
that
Go ahead, Liz.
I'm using my decibel meter to listen to you while you're there, and you're speaking at between 70 and 84 decibels, which is higher than 64 decibels. So clearly the 64 decibels, it's a logarithmic scale, by the way. It doesn't go up incrementally, it goes up.
I understand there's some intensity involved and
Yeah,
so on. But if you look at 260-63 subdivision 2 of the zoning code, you'll see what the problem is. So
Are we in a different zone to the other venues in town, such as the Colony and the Station Bar?
that's a good question and a fair question. The Colony is in the Hamlet Commercial District. Technically, it's a different district, but and they're not seeking a special use permit. So the special use permit standards haven't been brought to bear on their application. However, they are subject to the same.
You're in neighborhood commercial, Lizzie.
Right, but they're subject to the same, what we call supplementary regulations under 260-29, general performance standards. And those set decibel levels for all districts in the town. And it's the levels that are set for the neighborhood commercial district are the same as those set for the Hamlet commercial, namely the 64 before 9 o'clock at night and 60 after. Now, if you think those are artificially low, I don't know, they may be, but.
Well, I'm sure that they're exceeding them because you're exceeding them just to talk by talking. So I'm sure that the Colony.
I project well, what can I say?
So how come they're allowed to do what they're doing then? I'm sorry to be so naive about all of these.
It's not clear that they are.
We haven't given them, permission to violate.
But they're doing them.
Standards.
But they're doing them.
Well, that's up to the building department to get out there and issue a violation if they're enforcing the levels.
We're not doing anything, guys. We're not doing anything. So don't bring us into this discussion quite yet, please.
That's the one of the owners of the Colony.
Yes, I know. Hello, Neil.
Yeah, we're not open outside, by the way. Beautiful weather today.
Yeah.
Okay,
so no music at all outside?
We're not open outside yet because of this.
Right.
Okay, so to Stuart's point, the planning board is being asked to okay a special use permit for outdoor amplified music, which is not to be allowed outdoors according to the code.
It's very specific under special use permit.
So if it was not amplified music, if instead it was simply acoustic music with no amplification, those restrictions would not come to play?
Sounds like it.
Well, wait a minute.
The language says all activities employing amplified sound technique They fully within the structure or structures.
Right,
And
so that
62,
prohibition wouldn't apply if you're not using amplification, but
then
the
you
other
would just be
standard,
subject to decibel level.
no, I don't agree with that, because the supplementary regulations in 260-29 do establish decibel levels regardless of whether it's amplified or not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right, so if they decide to go with non-amplified music, they still would have to comply with the 64/60 schedule that's in the code under 260-29. You know, however long it's been there, it's there. So, or however long it's going to be there, I don't know. But
So what do you advise us to do then? I don't understand, because I mean, what you're saying is that if somebody's speaking in their house at 70 decibels and we are at 68 decibels, because that's more than 64 decibels, we shouldn't be allowed to make music, even if it's acoustic music.
well, it talks about operating a source of sound. So, you know, humans are sources of sound, guitars are sources of sound. I
I
hate to be
think,
legalistic
with
on
all
this.
respect, this seems to be
Doesn't it though?
unreasonable, not unreasonable, it just seems to be crazy. It doesn't seem to be allowing for there to be anything outside. You know, a truck driving along 212 is going to be
Right.
at 80 or 90
Motorcycles.
decibels.
I'm not disagreeing with you. All I'm reacting to is what's in the code. I'm sorry. Again, this is not my preference, but you know, I don't know how we can ignore it. And also, one of our concerns is that we don't want to discriminate against one business owner as opposed to another. We're trying to get to an even-handed approach that respects everybody. And
I understand that, and I really like what the colony is doing. And if that's the way to go, and the town likes that approach, then we'll go in that direction. I think
they may need to
we want to
revise
work
their.
in concert with the colony. I just need to understand what the differences are that are being applied to us.
It
Well,
won't be.
I'm sorry, Judy, go ahead.
It won't be. I mean, we need to deal with both cases, and we need to treat them the same way, unless there's some difference in the coding in the zoning that would allow a difference. I'm looking at another section, 139.2, excessive or unreasonable level of noise.
That's the noise ordinance. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's prohibited acts.
That's the noise ordinance, 139. Yeah.
Yeah, right,
It's a separate ordinance.
right.
It gives the town the authority to summons, to violate somebody and penalize them financially as a violation, you know, as an offense.
But if you look at the language, it's quite exaggerated. It says anything that reproduces or amplifies sound in such a manner as to be heard over any property line. It's kind of crazy, but there's the law.
It's also a very loose standard under that law, because that talks about the police officer having to judge what's excessive or not. And that's a very subjective standard and subject to vagaries, and a judge might look at that and say, well, how can you constitutionally apply that if it's just a subjective standard? Because one person may say it's excessive, another person may say not. And so where's the notice to the public of what's violating that law or not? So I have concerns about that. But that's not the only law. And that's what I've been pointing out to my colleagues here.
Let me ask you about another one a little further down. Exceptions, 139.3.
Right.
Item C, noise from individually sponsored events where a permit for public assembly or
Right.
other relevant permission has been obtained for the town, which
Right.
sort of implies that we can permit it.
We're just the planning board. We're not the town. I mean, the town is the town administration. I would think that would come from the building department. If there's a special event, they'd have to get a permit from somebody. But that only goes to the noise ordinance, and that would mean that the police can't come in and hit them because of an excessive noise. That doesn't address the zoning code, which remains a law. Just saying. You know, I think that the zoning code may have to be changed in order to accommodate this progress in outdoor music. But I don't know how we get around it.
Stuart, let me bring something up, because somebody just mentioned the traffic, and we had the same issue with the farm animal sanctuary. They were doing events out there, and we tried buffering it with hay, bales of hay and everything else. And the planning board went out there with decibel level meters to see if the sound exceeded their property line on 212. And every time a vehicle, bus and truck went by, it pegged the meter, so we couldn't, we
Yeah.
couldn't make a decision.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so any other board members have questions for Liz about how she might keep within the sound ordinance?
I
Well,
just
the
need to
only
know
thing
what
I'd
to
like to
do.
add to this is it does sound like the next step for you may be to, in the meantime, while this gets arbitrated, to pursue a variance with the Zoning Board of Appeals. I can't tell you whether or not that would be successful, but that would probably be the next step in terms of operating outside of any of the confines we're speaking about right now.
Well,
And
Connor, it's a
just-
good point in that we could ask the ZBA for a ruling about whether or not we can permit outside amplified sound, whether it's a special use permit or anyway. Does the planning board have the right to permit outdoor amplified sound? And we could ask the ZBA that. That's up to you guys.
Melissa had a comment.
I was just gonna say, if you go the ZBA route, Lizzie, the paperwork has to be started with Butch in the building department. He has to write the referral. So just so you know it.
Thank
You have to
you.
go back there.
Also, I don't, this is Stu again, I don't know what the jurisdiction of the ZBA is to give an opinion or a ruling without a denial from the building department. I mean, I don't think people can just go in there and ask for variance until they've been turned down for something. You know, follow me? And so,
I'm pretty sure that we've sent people for variance requests when they come before us for things that like need, I mean, usually we're talking about building something a little nudged over because of some
Right.
site plan reality.
right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think a denial was ever issued for those. So
So I'll defer to other people's experience. I just don't have experience with the ZBA to know how you get into their bailiwick.
Well, Stuart, at our last workshop, Dennis Doyle did say that the planning board has the ability to ask the ZBA for their decisions or opinions on things that we don't feel we know exactly what the code implies. And then the other issue is, as Stuart brought up, we could go ahead and approve the special use permit because the site plan's already approved, so it's a special use permit, and say, oh, well, we'll approve it, but if you violate the sound code, that's out of our jurisdiction. That's completely up to the zoning enforcement officer. But Stuart's point is that to get to that point means that neighbors have to be bothered enough to call up and make complaints to get the police out there so that something can be done. And that means that the planning board hasn't acted correctly to prevent that. So that's the issue I see that we're in. I don't have any problem okaying both the special use permit or a site plan that has outside music venue. Because the law says there's a sound code, and if you don't comply with that, you can be shut down. You could actually lose your special use permit.
the other side of it too is we're talking about how there are permits available for people on a case by case basis to throw outdoor events. We've seen it. I mean, we see it with the drum circle and concerts on the green. There are avenues to facilitate this. So this also begs, again, I'm okay with, okaying a site plan that has some amount of speakers and stuff on them. It's how they, use it and whether or not the enforcement is there, but anyway, that's just me.
We really, really need some guidance on this, guys. We have gone through 2.5 years of a renovation. We've gone through 2 years of a pandemic. We really need to be viable. We need to have events outside because that's what the public want. And, this just is almost impossible.
Well, what we're up against, Liz, is there are attorneys, lawyers, quoting us these same codes that we're just bringing up, representing clients, which are citizens in this town, which are complaining about the noise. And we're getting lawyers telling us that we have to apply the code. So,
How many, I don't know how to ask this, so maybe I have to ask the building department, but how many complaints have there been about noise in Bearsville from, I mean, not how many complaints, but how many total people have been complaining about noise in Bearsville?
That's a good
Well,
question.
Yeah, I
Because
don't
I
know about
think it's
Bearsville,
three
Liz, but
people, and I think 3 people are basically putting us out of business. And that means that the town is not taking care of one of its occupants, which is us, who employ a lot of people. There will probably be about 50 people employed here by the end of this year, and we pay a huge amount of tax. So we are not having any kind of guidance at this point, let alone support from the town, because I think 3 people are making complaints on a regular basis. And, you know, we had somebody stand up at the recent listening meeting that was held by Bennett and Maria Elena. And he said they play loud rock music every night. They are playing heavy metal music. Well, we have never played heavy metal music. We haven't actually played any music outside since for about 10 months. And we never play heavy music, and you know, we control the sound. So some of these complainants are exaggerating what we're doing. In fact, not always.
so Liz,
Not always a fair record of what's happening.
Liz, one of the answers might be to your question about why there's more complaints about one venue than the other. And that has to do with the way the sound bounces off these mountains. And where you are located, because of the mountain right in front of you, your sound may not be bouncing around the village the way it does, for instance, from the colony. So you may not be bouncing that sound out as much as other venues. But that we still have to address the issue, and the board, I need to get your input. Can we go ahead and issue a special use permit for the Bearsville complex to have outdoor venues?
You need outdoor sound.
Outdoor sound, assuming that it does not exceed the code.
Judy has a hand up.
I'm going to think my way through this, and it seems like the problem is that the code was never anticipated the problem. It would make sense to get a special event permit, but that seems to only be about vending. It would make sense to have a special use permit for the physical facilities that you're putting out, but we can't say you can have sound with it. I don't know the answer to this. It's just like, this is Woodstock, and it never occurred to them there was live music. I don't know. I'm sure that's not helpful, but it's
Please help us.
it's a
Please
hair.
help us. I'm not sure I can go through another summer with no activity. It's
I mean, again, starting down the ZBA route is fine, but I would say, can we make a referral to the ZBA about this question of, because I feel like if that really, I don't think it's issuing an SCP. I think at this point it's issuing a variance. Otherwise, we could also make a formal request for the zoning revision committee. And again, that's not a quick solution, but we can make a request for a zoning revision committee to take a look at 260, 62 section I. Again, and then again.
I want to ask a question. Can we, it says here, the zoning board of appeals shall hear and decide appeals and requests for variances. The only variances mentioned in the code have to do with building things. So it doesn't really cover it. But if we were to try to just kind of cover all the bases, if you get a special event permit and we give you a special use permit for the physical facilities that you're building, and you have in your description of what you're going to do that you're going to limit to acoustic music, it seems to me you've done everything within reason.
Judy,
And maybe ZBA will give you a variance that will allow amplified music.
Judy, there's one more thing we can do with special use permits, and we brought this up before. We can have a trial period. So that doesn't sound great for people like Liz, because it means you really don't have a full-time answer. But it would at least, if you give it for a year and they go through a year and they can contain the sound in their site and there's no complaints, and then I guess you're good to go. What happens if there isn't? I don't know.
I can't think of anything else except to lobby the town board to fix the law, but that's a longer term problem.
Well,
Short
then,
term, I like Peter's idea.
then we could give the time long enough, the permit long enough for the town to either fix the law or the ZBA to make a decision for us. Because we're stuck, as Stuart points out, that the code clearly says it has to be within a building. But then, as we've also pointed out, you can get a permit, an event permit, to be outside a building with sound and whatnot. So
It doesn't really say with sound. It says you can sell things. But
Well, wait a minute though, in the noise ordinance 139, which is what you brought up,
yeah,
that sets the standard as being you can't have excessive sound, whatever that means. But it
Whatever
has
that
an
means.
exception for special event permits issued by the town. So that means that's not limited to selling vendors selling things. That
you're
means
right.
you're accepted from the strictures of
I like that.
to have sound that's not excessive, whatever that means.
So I mean, so
that
is this?
doesn't answer. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Con.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Things got a little jumbled on my screen for a second. Sorry. So is maybe a potential solution that we can't say that you can have amplified music at this point outdoors, but in terms of a regular ongoing approval, I think for a special use permit, again, I think that's more of a variance, but we could maybe approve the structures for a special use permit, saying that they are there for when you have these permitted outdoor events that you're seeking that are stipulated as being okay in the code. And then in terms of ongoing regular activity, that gets hashed out by the ZBA, that gets hashed out by the ZRC over the long term, ZBA short term, ZRC long term. How do we feel about
my original suggestion, and I know, as I just said, Stuart found fault with it. My original suggestion is to go ahead and grant the special use permit, grant these permits. And if they exceed the sound limit and get busted for it, it's the town's problem to enforce it. It's not ours. I mean, yeah, the people, the citizens are going to say the planning board allowed this to happen. But on the other hand, you could say, well, the town didn't stop it when it exceeded the sound level. So,
I mean, because again, my opinion is that what they put out there is their business. Like someone had said, they could be each speaker could just be as useful as a Christmas ornament, but we can allow them to put it out there and say that when you get these permitted events, you can turn them on. Essentially, I think it's going to fall to the ZBA to do regular stuff, but I don't know. I want to see how the board feels.
well, I guess what we're up against is to come up with the wording for Melissa to put in the conditions of a special use permit, or in the wording of the special use permit itself. John's got his hand up. Yes, John?
Yeah, well, the problem is very, very old. I mean, it goes way back to the watering trough in Bearsville in the 80s, where the only violation was the trucks on the road. We could not meter anything else. The difficulty here is that this has not been fixed for the last 40 years. This needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed at the town board level. Permit these organizations to go forward, as Peter outlined, is the only viable course we have. Because at this point, the law doesn't work.
I agree with John on
And
that.
the law doesn't allow it.
Well, so if we issue these permits for these outdoor events, and the law can then say you're in violation or not of the sound ordinance.
The neighbor can sue us for exceeding our authority and set it aside. Okay, look.
Well, I get it. That's,
gentlemen, we got a problem here.
we do. I mean, Liz brought up a good point. She's got a lot invested and needs to get her show going. And we're faced with lawyers telling us if we allow it, we're going to be sued. So, yes, Judy?
Well, I think applying a certain degree of common sense, if we say she can build what she needs to build in the physical way, she can have the sound equipment there. She needs a special event permit from the town for events that risk generating sound beyond the boundaries of the property.
Look,
And
I
it's a
don't.
1 year trial, and we see if it works.
Yeah, I mean the other thing, reading again, these laws again, 260, 62, and 29. I mean, they don't say that you can't own speakers. They don't say you can't hang the equipment, that you can't place it.
Right.
It just says it can't be essentially employed and except, and then in this noise ordinance, when permitted with a special event permit by the town of Woodstock. So really, I mean, again, this takes us back to this. It's not it's the chicken and the egg. This stuff doesn't make sound until somebody turns it on. And that's, I don't think it's within our purview to say we have to study the issue and know the science so much that we only allow people to buy a certain equipment and place it a certain way when it can operate within a threshold that is acceptable. It's for them to do that, and it's for then the town and Butch to enforce that. So again, I don't see what would keep them from having the equipment. I see what would keep them from using it every single day at this point, but I don't see in the wording we just spoke about what prevents them from having the equipment.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
don't have, there is not a site plan attached to this where the equipment is there. The request came and all we have is the dates. That's Lizzie's plan, the experiment and the dates. So there isn't a site plan for this. There's just the original site plan that they saw with us that I think they had intentions of doing this from the gate.
Yeah.
This is a sketch plan review. So
For
It's
special,
not, it's a special
it's
use
an
permit.
SUP. It's an SUP request.
okay.
So
If we approved it tonight, Peter would sign the little packet that says the experiment, what you guys saw, and the dates. And that's what they would get with their special use permit for these 5 dates.
And it would still, but it would still fall to the town to give them the permits for these dates, right? To try them out.
Right now, no. I mean, because it's been to you guys for the special use permit.
Okay.
But I'm proposing that the special use permits specify that they have to get event permits to actually do amplified sound.
Yeah, and while I do think that's implied within the structure, I'm totally fine with that, because that, I think, is what will facilitate what she wants to do and allow us to proceed without
how do we get a special event permit? What's that process?
I think you have to, I forget if you reach out to the chamber or the town board.
I have no idea.
Me either.
I'm looking it up.
You go to the town dispatcher
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's right. You go to the town dispatcher.
and they give you a day permit for whatever it is.
So I'm supportive of that if we want to make a motion, but I think that threads the needle.
All right, well, does someone on the board want to go ahead and start a motion?
Well, what are we gonna before you do that, are you gonna put any conditions about sound levels? I mean, how do you get around the sound level ordinance? The 66.
I just don't believe you can. There's a code. It's just like when we approve the driveway entrance. Well, there's a state law that says you can't back out on the highway. Well, we don't put in our resolution, you can't back out on the highway. There's a law against that. So there's a law against excessive sound. That's there.
And the only way they'd be able to break it is with special permit.
No, well, there's also another law about that says you can't have over 64 decibels before 9 o'clock or 60 decibels after. We all probably agree that that's an outdated standard, and it defeats the ability of businesses to reasonably conduct their operations to the benefit of everybody. But, as John Laval clearly said, that's a town board issue. And, why can't the town board grab a hold of this and move quickly on it? I mean, it's their law. And for them to foist on us an outdated law and just sit back and to let the planning board solve everything, they're never going to do anything.
Yeah, I agree. That's why my suggestion is to okay these special use permit in the site plan. If it's up to the town to enforce the code, not us.
And I mean, I think doing that is within the parameters of the code. But the other side of this too is I'd like to make a referral to the zoning revision committee asking that we put this particular law on their docket. I mean, that's what they're there for.
Yeah,
To review
Good idea.
antiquated zoning law.
I agree. Judy has her hand up.
Yes, the point I want to make is the decibel levels are at the border or 10 feet out of the border. I don't remember.
It's 10
Sound
feet from
drops.
it's 10
Sound-
feet from sound sources and from the border.
10 feet from the sound sources and from the border.
That's what the code says. It's a very
Okay.
restrictive
But
standard.
my point is, if you have the sound emitting thing on the border, it's a different thing. If you have it inside, sound drops off exponentially.
Right.
So they could, in fact, have acoustic sound. And if it's not near the border, they could very possibly, even if my voiceover, in Lizzie's
Right.
speaker is coming out at 75, it's very possible that it's not going to be 75 outside the border.
Unamplified, you're talking.
And the other, I just, not to muddy the waters even more, but one of the reasons you guys are probably spiking is also because of gain levels. There's a lot of complicated sound science that goes behind this, but it's safe to say that, in my opinion, there is a path forward for us to do this that gives them the opportunity to operate within those confines.
I mean, the problem with this amplified thing is it's pretty absolute in the way it's worded. But the decibel levels at the boundary and 10 feet outside the boundary, that's a thing you have to experience. You can't just say it won't work.
But again, she's asking to do a few dates, not even for continued
Right.
use. So,
Which is why I'm suggesting the event permit.
so then, bear with me 1 second. I'm going to see if I can pull this up. I feel like we just need to make a motion. We'll take the vote to approve the special use permit with the caveat that all outdoor events are permitted by the town, by the dispatch, the appropriate offices of the town of Woodstock.
An event permit by.
Must be permitted.
I couldn't hear Melissa over Judy, but I imagine I owe you a thank you. So yes, what she said.
I just finished your sentence and said, by an event permit issued by dispatch.
That to me,
All right,
checks
so
all the
I'm gonna repeat what Connor just said. And then someone can say yes, that they made the motion. Connor made a motion to approve the special use permit of all outdoor events listed, if they're permitted with an event permit issued by dispatch.
I am so moved. Yes.
Second.
I'll go with that.
And are we going to limit it to a year's trial?
No, if they issue the permit, they got a permit.
Got to be enforced.
One-time thing, isn't it? That's right.
Got to be enforced. All right,
All
so
right.
I need votes from everyone else.
I would like to have some discussion on the motion.
Okay.
So-
Hold on. James is muted. You're muted again.
You're still muted.
I think she wants you to unmute.
Staying unmuted.
James, I got you.
I'm sorry, my Zoom is being really stupid. Okay, now it's working.
A or
Okay.
no?
I'm fine with what Connor's saying, though I'm curious about Stuart's final point, that we're not exposed to anything involving, you know, the lawsuits from neighbors and all that, because that is, you know, obviously, if we're fully removing us having any powers involving what happens with sound, and then we can approve whatever. So I am good with that.
So I appreciate James' comment. I just have a question. If we are to fully remove ourselves from the sound limit standards of the code, how are we doing our job? Isn't our job to apply the code, or will we just ignore what we don't like? And that's the kind of thing that you know, a lawyer for a neighbor would sue the town, to the planning board, say you've abandoned your responsibility, you've acted outside your authority because you've ignored a clear standard in the code without any reasonable basis. I mean, I'm concerned about that. I'm not saying I agree with that argument.
So specifically, which are we ignoring?
The sound limits set forth for the NC zoning district, which are 60/64 decibels.
But Stuart, if they get a permit from the town, then we're not ignoring our duties.
They have to get a permit.
They have to get a permit.
And we're not saying they can exceed that.
That's right.
We're saying they have to follow the sound laws, right?
But well, wait a minute, the police are used to the noise ordinance, which just talks about their subjective standard of what's excessive. I don't know that they apply the zoning standards. That's something that we do.
Well, their job in that event dispatch, in setting event permits by dispatch, is to, you know, is to give, you know, a venue to these things that is controlled and within a certain time limit, so that, again, what we're talking about here is regular use, and we're not approving it for regular use, and we're not approving it for use beyond the threshold. We don't have to, like Peter said, we don't have to say you stay under 64 decibels under this at whatever the margin is, because that's the law. That's par for the course. So what we're saying is that their site plan is approved, and that they can have a special use permit to hold outdoor events, but all of those events need to take place with special permission from the dispatch. And since we're talking about a small number, we're not talking about the kind of continuous everyday use that I think has spurred a controversial conversation.
I understand. Look, I appreciate it. Everybody's trying to come up with a common sense solution to this, and I get it. If I were arbitrating this case and I had the authority to decide it, I might, you know, do that. But I'm concerned. I don't want to repeat myself. My concern is about living within the code that it's given to us, and I'm not comfortable with the town board again.
Well,
identifying a problem and then it not getting solved in a way that should be solved.
Well, in a way, and if I can take a moment to just agree with you, you know, the absence of a willingness to enforce, maybe because partially for keeping things on a trial basis, you know, like the absence of a willingness to enforce, the absence of the willingness of a town board to change the law, and I guess I would say, you know, doesn't mean that we shouldn't. I mean, again, I'm not trying to get all eyes to the future here, but you know, that we can operate within the confines of the code here. Again, not permitting anything exceeding it that isn't already stipulated. I know that you're saying you're worried about people suing us, but on top of all those things I just mentioned, sorry to bring it up again, but not having access to our own lawyer regularly, I don't think, you know, we can always have being sued be the number one prerogative. I forget who said it to me early on in my time here, but someone said it's not our prerogative to just worry about what's going to get us sued. It's a prerogative to do what's right and what's in the best interest of the town.
And again, I just want to thank you, Connor, and I appreciate your comment. I know I just kind of took a quick look at the chat, and there are some people weighing in that claiming there's no prohibition against amplification in the town of Woodstock, only that sound remained below a certain decibel level. I don't believe that's a correct statement of the town code. As I pointed out to people before, under 260-63, it specifically says that all activities employing amplified sound shall take place fully within the structure of structures. And that's for general standards for special use permit applications, which is what we have in front of us. So I just want to make that statement because that's my understanding of the law.
Now,
Anyway,
and my thinking on this, I'm sorry, and I'll let you go, Judy, is just that we're saying that we're on board with trying this out, a few events per year. And basically, it's whether or not we approve them, the dispatch town still has to approve them. So there's still an opportunity to, for them to set thresholds for these special events that, again, may exceed normal code, just as the drum circle does once a week, just as Concerts on the Green does with regularity. But again, with much less frequency. Sorry, Judy.
Yeah. As somebody said to me years ago, anybody can sue you about anything, anytime. B, we are controlled and the applicant is controlled by the law. So the special use, the event permit seems to me to be the right way for her to go. And we need to give her permission to do the things she needs so that the event permit becomes relevant.
Okay, so I'm going with Connor's suggestion. I think it solves all the issues, especially Stewart's, because it puts on record that we're not just permitting willy-nilly any events to happen. It gets approved by the town.
so I have one other reaction. And so what do we do when the colony wants the same treatment then?
I think they should be allowed to do that. They should be allowed to seek special event permits just the same way and get approved or denied by the town because again, they are looking to, I am speculating here, will probably want to have us vet their speaker system for continual use so that maybe they could get a variance or something that would allow them to operate amplified sound outdoors because they've demonstrated an ability to suppress it. However, beyond that, when it comes to things like drums and the hard to control high sound pressure level instruments, high SPL, then they have to get a permit in advance from the town to do those larger outdoor events. I think that, and that's all. That's all. We just reviewed that here, so that yeah.
And you think the police are going to be savvy enough to know the ins and outs of these?
That's their problem.
Concepts.
I mean,
Well,
I want to trust in our institutions, and I mean, we've had, again, the drum circle for years, the Concerts on the Green for years, parades, these things are what bring a little bit of zest to town life, and so. So the answer is yes, I do have confidence in them. If they can manage a parade of a bunch of anyone who wants to come participate from Woodstock of all places, yes, I have confidence that they will manage this in a decent
Multiple
manner.
parades. Multiple.
Yeah, multiple.
So Connor, you want to go ahead and make your proposal and let us?
Should I do it? Should I
Yes.
do it again or do? All right.
Yep.
So make a motion to approve the site plan and the special use permit.
No site plan, just special use permit.
Oh, I thought this was site
No,
schedule.
it's just
Sorry
a
about
special use permit.
All right. So make a motion to approve the special use permit with the caveat that all outdoor events be permitted by the Woodstock dispatch.
Well, but I have a friendly question. When you say be permitted, you mean that they be, the approval is conditioned upon their obtaining a special event permit for those dates.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
So,
Will you accept that amendment as part of the?
Accepted.
Thank you.
All right,
Point.
can you repeat that, Stuart, your amendment? Sorry.
Well, Connor made a motion to approve the site plan,
Special use permit.
Special use
With
permit.
caveat,
a special use permit. Thank you. And I just added some clarification that it's conditioned upon the applicant obtaining a special event permit from the town for the dates in question.
Yes.
all right. that, okay. I
Just
got it.
for clarification, she can still serve meals out there. She just can't have events.
Yeah, this is all just about amplified sound, and I'm hoping we can. We're going to do that for the colony tonight too, right? Just again, we're moving forward with the food, but not the sound. This is us absolving ourselves.
Okay, well, I'm ready to second
John
Connor's.
has a question.
All right. So first, Peter seconded.
John seconded.
Oh, John seconded. Sorry.
All right, well, I'll go down. Peter Cross, yea or nay?
Yes.
Stuart,
No,
John,
Yay, with the notation that the one thing I have not heard mentioned, we do have a zoning enforcement officer.
Oh, I was saying this is Butch in the town I trust them to do this,
Yes,
to do their
All right.
part.
Judy,
Yes.
Connor,
Aye.
James.
Yes.
I'm gonna pull a Stuart and say motion carries. I will prepare a resolution for next meeting. Lizzie,
Okay,
it's
guys.
all paperwork, but you gotta wait till the paperwork goes through.
and let me be clear, if I could just make this statement, that I'm in favor of the efforts of the applicant, but I'm not in favor of approving an application that's going to invite a violation of a clear directive in the code, which says all activities employing amplified sound shall take place fully within the structure of structures. I think the neighbors are entitled to rely on that, and as unreasonable as it may seem in this day and age, and given the layout of the property and so on, it's something that the town board really needs to come to grips with, and I have trouble ignoring that. That's all.
Okay, I agree. All right,
We
folks.
understand and agree. It's just we have to do something.
There's also the standard that the town board gives us of 64 decibels. The town board has to come to grips with that too, because it's probably outdated.
Terribly
To
outdated.
put us in the position of, being betwixt and between is not fair to us and not really fair to the applicants. So
I like to think it's an opportunity to try some things out and press forward, and I'm
okay.
grateful. I mean, I'm grateful for it, and I'm definitely appreciative though of your views, Stu. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor, and I think your late grandfather would be appreciative of.
Sure.
In fact, I know he would be.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Okay, so for our 6:45,
Best
we
of luck,
have
Lizzie.
before us 105 to 109 Mill Hill Road, LLC, Special Use Permit 21-0162E. This is a sketch plan review of a site plan review application to enhance parking lot to remedy a violation in the R 1.5 zoning district located at 105, 109 Mill Hill Road in Woodstock. Of course, we all know this is the casino, and the representative is Christopher Ailman and Amy. Are they present here?
Amy is here. Hi, Amy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you
Hi.
for taking the time to meet with us tonight.
Okay, would you please tell the board what it is that you're planning to do?
I am here this evening because we received a cease and desist, and the building department asked us to submit a site plan for the addition of the proposed parking for the 12 spaces, and I'm here with the site plan from the architect.
Okay, now the additional parking, I believe, was 8 spaces. I can't quite remember. How many?
12 spaces, please.
12 new spaces. Okay, bringing it to a total of 72. I think it was, or something close to that, right?
Total spaces for the whole site is 71.
71. Okay, well, we're quite familiar with it, that you did do a new site plan, which is great. I saw it, and it does delineate the parking, which was not clearly delineated before. And of course, the issue is that where your new parking is going is kind of going into the buffer area, and some of the clearing to allow for the parking has removed some of the vegetation, making it such that some of the lighting and car lights are spilling onto adjoining property. So I'll ask the board what they feel, but the neighbors are requesting a 6-foot high fence to stop the light from the cars spilling over onto their property. I believe that's what we're up against here. Any board members have questions for the applicant?
Judy,
Is there a copy of the plan we could?
I haven't seen it.
you guys got it.
I saw it.
When?
I'll see if I can. I just meant that.
Friday?
I meant that.
Friday?
I just meant, could we pull it up on the
If I had it, but I don't remember getting it and I can't find it.
shared screen? All right.
While
I'll
you're
see if
looking, can
do
you
it.
ask the applicant a question? Is there any objection to the fence proposal that's been made?
I'm just trying to pull up the thing, but no, I mean, that seems like the most
I'm asking the
reasonable,
applicant,
effective.
Stuart, I heard you. Amy probably has to consult Nancy Adler, who owns the property, in regards to what she's going to agree legal wise. Amy is just the rep for Cucina and the parking.
Well, perhaps I misunderstood. Where's the fence?
Okay, I found it. But which one is it?
It's one file that we got from Cucina. It's the site plan.
472 PDF?
But I can describe it for you. It's right behind the barn.
Yeah.
That's where the new spaces are going.
Okay, I think I've got it here.
All the rest of the site plan just delineates the parking clearly, which hadn't been done before.
Is this the right thing?
Judy?
There you
Yes. Bingo.
Okay, so you see the shaded spaces, those are the new spaces. And the distance between them and the property line has now been cleared enough so that the car lights would spill across. And it is definitely in the purview of the planning board dealing with parking in commercial places to request screening. And we've done it many, many times. It's definitely our purview to prevent that light from spilling onto the neighbor's property. So that's really the only issue here.
I'm absolutely in favor of that. And I also think that if the applicant has been clearing brush that was doing some degree of mitigation of the sound and light, it ought to be restored.
Well,
I have an idea. Hang on. Amy is here. Nancy Adler is the owner. Amy did receive today. Chris, who's the other manager, he's actually out of the country right now. I think they need to confer with Nancy Adler regarding the requests that were made by their neighbor, Ms. Schofler, and her lawyer. And if Amy's good with that, I'm totally awesome with bringing you back to the next meeting after you guys have kind of looked at what was presented this afternoon.
okay,
Planning board,
good.
I have
Amy?
a question.
what do you think?
That sounds good. I'm going with that.
Stuart's got his hand up.
Yeah,
Stuart,
so the application, the agenda item is 105, 109 Mill Hill Road LLC. Is that the owner of the land?
Yes, but it's Nancy Adler is the person who owns it.
And what is Amy Dunphy's relation to the LLC? Amy?
So I'm a manager at Cucina. And I'm representing Cucina here. Nancy Adler is the landlord of the property that we rent the property from.
So has Nancy or her LLC, have they filed this application? I'm asking.
Yes.
So
Yes.
they signed off on the request. So they
Yes.
want us to consider it. That's
Yes.
all. Okay.
She's aware of what's happening. All of that. She has all of this material in front of her.
Okay. Thank you.
She
That's my
appointed Chris and Amy representatives.
Okay.
all right. Sounds good, Melissa.
But Amy, do you agree? So you can consult Nancy and show her what we received today?
Yes,
Because that would have to be worked into the site plan, just the screening and all of that. and I'll bring you back literally in 2 weeks. I'll email you tomorrow, but that gives you 2 weeks to touch base with Nancy if she wants to come. I know she came last time. And then at least we can come to some sort of terms about what we want, what the planning board wants, how they want to mitigate, and let's take care of the parking. Planning board?
Yes, it's
Silent nod.
absolutely going to require, absolutely going to require a buffer along that back zone, whether it's fencing or, but we're requesting fencing because that would actually stop the light from going across.
Yes. But I would also suggest that some kind of vegetation, probably on the Schaffler side of that fence, to help cut down on sound. In
Yeah.
evergreens.
I believe we can put that in there. Yes. Definitely in our purview. There's no doubt about it. Okay. So now,
Amy will talk. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so now we have the proposed wellhead protection law, and basically we're being asked for our vote on supporting the memo. So basically, we'll just put it to a simple vote. How do we vote to support the wellhead protection law?
Does anyone have any questions about the law, since I was on that committee?
No, I've read it all. I'm in favor. Anybody else on the board for or against it?
Obviously, I'm in favor of it.
Okay, that's two of us.
We'll take Judy seconded it. Do we hear ayes to send the memo over that we're in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I want to note, and Judy knows, this has been a work in the making for a lot of years. It got under the shuffle. If we remember Ken coming to our meetings and kind of filling us in. So this is a little momentous, guys.
I count the history back to 1994 when Horsley and Wittens did the what I call the mitten.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So under unfinished business, we have some motions I'm going to ask Stuart to do, but the first thing is a site visit update.
I have a suggestion.
What's that?
Because I always have suggestions. I have a suggestion. James and Brian both went, but they both had questions. And the more that I sat with it, how about we bring your you and his wife back so Brian and James can ask the questions, and then we can discuss how to mitigate for their cabin that they're making. How's that sound, planning board? We'll have them back next meeting if they're able.
Which case are you asking about?
This is a cabin in the scenic overlay.
Is that your Koski, that case?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, that's why I wasn't
Just
sure.
because James and Brian both had questions, and I thought I could answer them, but I think it would be better if the applicant could answer them. So we'll do a second sketch plan review.
Makes sense to me.
Perfect. Now you can move on. I'll shush my mouth.
Okay, so then we have a motion to return the remainder of performance bond to Walt Heeman from Planning Board Case 19-1215 in the amount of $7,965.40, and the remainder of unused escrow to Michael Tsumpis from Planning Board Case 19-1217, Wetlands and Watercourse Permit 19-042 in the amount of $142.67. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yay.
So now I'm going to ask Stuart to make a motion for the last two, which is to approve the resolution for Lions and the Colony.
All right, so on Lions Rentals LLC, SUP 22-0664, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as drafted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
In terms of, so the motion carries. In terms of the Colony, I'm not prepared to make a motion at this point. I think we need to discuss where we're going with that before we can formulate a motion. That's just my view.
I agree. I mean, we've just made some kind of precedent by what we did with Bearsville, and we have to see to what extent it applies.
All right. So your administrative assistant suggestion is I can work a resolution for next meeting, and we can make them semi-similar.
Here's my only question, though, is that we do want to I just want to make sure that they are able to move forward with their beer garden construction outside of the sound stuff. I mean, that was really the most imperative thing for them.
I thought we had officially separated the sound from everything else, and the point of tonight was to
Yeah, I mean,
get the
that
sound down and
I don't want us to get too far away from that thread. We were going to resubmit the sound stuff, so I want to move forward with that motion, which was again only for construction as it pertains to dining in the beer garden, not with nothing, not approving or denying anything to do with amplified sound. I don't think we need to kick that can down the road.
I'm good with that, Judy.
Just as a clarification, I believe that, I don't remember if it's in the resolution or not, but that the Howards specified that they're not going to be operating inside and outside simultaneously. So it's not adding to the parking.
Correct. That was one of,
Yes.
not operating an event. I mean, they can serve burgers and stuff outside while you're having an event inside.
Oh. Okay. Well, does that raise parking issues?
No,
No.
because the event is what really brings up the parking, and as I said, they're grandfathered in and have plenty of parking. So let's go with Stuart Connor's motion.
I'll second it.
Okay,
Can we repeat it? Because
yeah, thank you.
it's different from what we have in front of us in terms of the draft, so.
Connor, what's your motion for the column?
To
This is a
approve.
Site plan review.
Yes, to approve the site plan as presented, with the exception of any peripherals related to amplified sound.
The question on the proposal,
Yes.
if now's a proper time. So would you be open to adding any conditions that there any sound at the premises not exceed the decibel limits prescribed for the Hamlet Commercial District?
I just don't see why we have to. It's the law. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
we have no intention of breaking the law. We just want to set up a situation. We
I
may
mean-
have speakers, but they may not be turned on. At this rate, I don't see much future for live music in this town, so I might be dialing back my plans to develop the space. So, but we are going to develop the space as an outdoor. People want to be outside, or I go out of business. You know, whether there's music or not is not the question. People physically need to be outside on my property for me to make some money.
honestly, I don't want to attach any sound related stipulations
I
to
don't
this
either.
because this is not about the sound. We're not dealing with that right now. I think this Bearsville thing gives us a chance to sit with this, come back when they do present the sound plan to us, and we can give them the exact same treatment, which is like, sure, put the speakers out there, but we're not approving continuous sound. All events for now have to be approved by the town dispatch. I don't want to add that in now. I don't want to even debate it right now. I just want to approve their ability to move forward with construction for outdoor dining, nothing to do with amplified sound whatsoever.
I agree.
Second.
I agree. I
Is
mean,
that-
it doesn't mean that they can't have a acoustical guitarist there.
No, that's within their rights right now. Operating outside of that requires more discussion, and I think we've had a really good. We made good progress on that tonight, but that's not a discussion for tonight. I want to move forward with my motion as presented last time. And
Point of order. We have a resolution, right? It was discussed last time. We've got it. This is voting on the document.
yes.
Well, wait a minute.
So I'll second Connor's proposal.
Are we doing all in favor, or are we waiting?
I'd like to look at it.
Yeah,
Again, it's multiple pages with options. It's not a complete document. Just saying.
We have options, he's correct.
You want me to find it and put it on the screen? I can do that.
Page 3 is really what needs to be, what you need to decide.
Well, the draft has a limit on no outdoor sound after 10 o'clock at night. It has other things in here about the sound restrictions, and it was a work in progress. So, you know, it's not really ready for prime time vote until it gets finished, seems to me.
Yeah, who was I putting the exception of sound within the beer garden sound? I mean, if we pull up the resolution now, it's really not that much. I'm sorry I respectfully just disagree. We've gone through resolutions before where there were pages and pages of red and just gone one at a time and approved them.
Pull it up. Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. But
All right.
I'm bringing it up. Just a minute.
All right.
I think page 3 is
That's where everything is.
is where you guys need to just agree on what we're doing with number 1 and number 2.
Yeah, the other ones seem pretty.
I got it all together, yeah.
Yeah, it's just giving us context.
Right.
What you guys had to ask for. And I
think we should take 1 out.
Yeah, remove. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to step on you, Judy. Go ahead.
Yep, take 1 out.
Take 1 out.
Yep.
And again,
Now, these
just
are
those
your
other.
choices. Yep.
So this would be correct.
Okay.
The second one.
Yep.
whoa.
Take out the red. I don't even know if we really need to say this, but
Yeah,
That's
I
my.
I know. I agree with you, Judy. The second and third sentences was just what came out when we were kind of discussing this and throwing it all around. So Judy, what she just did is basically what her and I discussed, and it's going to look like that. Planning board. That's what you're voting on. Right?
Yeah.
There. Take a look.
and that's I again submit my motion as unamended.
Here we go.
Well, number 2 is I think it has a misstatement because it says sound is within town is regulated by the zoning enforcement, noise ordinance, law, and police dispatch, not under the planning board site plan.
just took that out. I think that doesn't need to be
Yeah.
there.
That doesn't.
Because, there's also another law that regulates sound that's not recited there, talking about the
Yeah.
Hamlet.
I have
Take
them
that
all.
out.
She got
Take
rid of
that
them.
out.
Yep.
So two is out.
So this is what we got.
Stuart, Judy has it right on the screen what it's going to look like.
It's easier. I have it in front of me, so it's hard for me to, it's kind of small print there. I don't know how to make it bigger. That's the
All right,
problem.
I'm going to read it. Approval of site plan is complete with the exception of sound within the beer garden. Sound within town is regulated by the zoning enforcement, noise ordinance, law, and police dispatch, not under the planning board site plan process. That's what you're voting on.
I thought we're taking that out. Did people say we're just taking that out?
No, we took out some repetitions and rewordings.
Again,
And the thing about the 10 p.m. because we can't authorize that.
Yep.
and this is just saying that we're not making a determination on the sound. They're going to bring it back before us at a later time.
Correct.
Right, but it says more than that, Connor. It
That
says,
is true.
and it tells the public that the sound is regulated by the noise ordinance law, but it's also
That's right.
regulated by the zoning standards in Article 260. And you have to put that in there. If you're
All
gonna
right. So then what if we just change it to say approval of the site plan is complete with the exception of amplified sound peripherals within the beer garden?
And what are peripherals? What do you mean by that?
Like any additions they want to make, peripherals being items in relation to.
Equipment?
Equipment.
Sure.
So amplified equipment instead of peripherals.
Amplified sound equipment. Yeah.
And then are we getting rid of sound within town? We're just going to keep it.
I think it's unnecessary to say it.
Yeah, I think, and again, this leaves us open for when they want to come back. And again, we can then make a more informed.
Right.
So I'm going to read it to the whole board. This is what you're agreeing on. This is what you're going to vote on. Approval of site plan is complete with the exception of amplified sound
Equipment.
of the amplified sound equipment within the beer garden.
Right.
Correct.
Period.
Period. Yes.
Well,
Well,
semicolon, but yeah.
Connor made the motion. Who's seconding?
I do.
Oh
Second.
yeah, look at that rush.
What's the story
Yeah.
with number 1? Is that it?
Yes. No, we removed that. It's Judy has it. All right, Peter.
Of site plan
Eric.
is
What about the rest that's in yellow? All sounds within the site
all
plan.
out. It's out. It's out.
If you look at the Zoom screen, Judy has the final edit.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry I didn't have it. I was at the Mets game today. I didn't get it. They won
It's right here.
10 innings. Okay. I see. Submit final. Yeah. Okay. I see. Okay.
All right,
Got it.
Peter. A or
Everything
nay?
else is the same.
Well, there's also, do you have a result? What's the first resolved? Where is that?
Now therefore be it resolved.
The secra, and then, all right, hold on. Approve site plan. Yes, resolve the site plan must comply with the town. See, this is the thing. All sounds within the site plan must comply with the town sound ordinance. But that's not the only standard.
But that's not in there anymore.
Oh, it is. I have to take it out.
Oh, I see. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the old.
I didn't realize I needed it. We had one more there. I just took
Let's
it
see,
out.
shall be met prior to the conditions. And approval expires. Alteration. Steven, can you raise it up one more paragraph? I can't.
And Judy, can you
Okay.
email me this
I got
when
it.
you're done?
I will.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think we had a second from Peter, was it?
Yes,
Yep.
we did. So Peter, A or nay?
Yay.
Yay.
Stuart,
No.
John,
Yay.
Connor,
Yay.
James,
He said yay. He did has his muted on.
Oh,
His
okay.
hand is up.
Motion carries. I will process this tomorrow after Judy.
Mazel tov.
Mr. and Mrs.
Wow.
Howard, we will talk. It's paperwork now. It has to be filed and plans have to be submitted and signed off on. So just a little bit more paperwork, but we're there. And then we'll discuss the sound further and figure out a plan.
Wow. Thank you, everybody. Boy, can't wait till we have some less difficult cases.
Serious.
Thanks, everybody, for such a lot of work put into there. Unless anybody on the board has any other things to bring up, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I will send it to you right now. It's labeled revised.
Perfect. You're my best. Next meeting is June 2nd. We will be Zoom. I have no idea what's going to happen after that. Stay tuned for those conversations that have been going on.
Heads up, I won't be here for that, but good luck.
Melissa, you're an excellent MC.
Yes,
Really?
absolutely.
I think you guys just needed it at this point.
A lion tamer with a whip and a chair.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. Melissa, I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning.
The
Thanks,
flowers are blooming.
Good night,
You're
everybody.
welcome. You're welcome, Jackie.
Night.
Good night.